So let's start from the very beginning. If you could tell me a little bit about yourself, where you were born, and just
Well,
where you grew up.
yes, I was born in San Jose, Costa Rica, 1945. Um, at the time, we used to watch a lot of movies, especially war movies, like any kid. The funny thing is, without thinking that 20 years later, I was going to be in the same forces of the movies I was watching, fighting in the Pacific. Then I came to the United States in 1964 at the age of 19. And there's a lot of things in between, but basically I was drafted in 1966 at the age of 21. And we can go from here on.
Wait, were you an American citizen, or you were still a
No.
citizen
I
of Costa
was a
Rica?
resident.
You were a resident. The
Yeah.
residents they were drafted
In
also?
those days in Costa Rica, that was talking 1964, I applied for my green card, let's say in January, and within 3 months, I had it. I was coming over to the United States. Coincidence? I don't know, but the Vietnam was going on and the war was going on, and a lot of people were needed.
So you got your card really fast.
I got my card real fast.
Okay, so this was, I think you had told me that you were drafted in June of '67. Is that right?
June. Oh, I entered. I entered. I went to Fort Ord in June 1967.
How did you feel when you got that draft notice? Were you expecting it at all?
I'm sorry. I was drafted in 1966.
Okay, but and you were in Vietnam.
I was in Vietnam in
Okay.
'67. I was a year in the United States. First in Fort Ord, California, for basic training, and then I moved on to Fort Belvoir in Virginia
Oh yes,
for the engineer training.
yes. But before we go there, I just wanted to ask you how you felt when you got that draft notice. Was it something that you were expecting?
Yes and no. It was kind of shock, but at the same time, it was kind of exciting. Like I wrote later on, you felt going to the army finally. You're going to be a John Wayne.
I was going to say John
Rambo
Wayne,
didn't
yes.
exist at the time, so it was a John Wayne thing, and see, it was a great feeling actually for a young fellow.
Did you have a clue as to what the war was about, or
Well,
had you been
we,
following
like
it?
everybody, most of us kids, we were fighting the communism, we were fighting the bad guys, and the United States was right, and I was ready to serve this country.
So tell me a little bit about it. Tell me about your training.
Well, the basic training is all the same, just for everybody. It was pretty tough. 2 months where I lost 25 pounds. And then I went to an advanced training in Fort Belvoir as a combat engineer. They say you basics, how to build bridges, build bunkers, and the demolition or the explosive training that I finally end up with. I actually got it in Vietnam, but it was part of the things I had to do in Vietnam, which mainly was demolition specialist, sweeping for mines for the tank before the tank that coming over.
For the booby traps, I think you wrote, or
Not-
IEDs.
Well, booby traps in those days, the idea to call it booby traps didn't start up until about half a year later after I arrived, when the Viet Cong got very smart and started, making booby traps out of the mines in case that we found them, they would at least kill one of us. But before that, those mines were designed just for the weight of the tank with the vehicle to go over and explode it. But since we were discovering that with the minesweeper, they decided to make a remote control kind of device. It wasn't not a remote control as we know. It was just a little wire long enough to get into the bushes and with just one flashlight battery, they will explode it. It wasn't a remote control as we know with a telephone. We don't have that sophistication in those days. Remember, it worked though. It killed many of my guys.
Yeah. Well, I think you had written that at the beginning of, I don't know if it was at boot camp, where the sergeant said to look to your left and look to your right. And
Oh no!
tell me about that.
Upon arrival to Benoit in Vietnam, I think it was the master sergeant, and he was trying to make a point, and he said to us, we were all lined up, and said, look at the person to your right, and the person to the left. Have you seen each other? Yes, sergeant. Okay, one of you is going to die. And he wasn't mistaken. You know, a lot of us died. I guess he was trying to make a point, to make us aware that, you know, the chances of dying were very real, as you probably know.
When you were still, right before Benoit, you had had the experience that you were interrogating each other, and you had written that you were the favorite interrogator, and I wanted to know why, other than your accent.
Exactly. When I was in, this place was AP Hill, and was about 30 miles from Richmond, Virginia. Our mission with the combat engineer company that I was attached to it, at the time our mission was to train the new OCS officers to be in guerrilla warfare. So AP Hill was nothing but a forest, so nothing but woods. There was nothing there but the woods and our campground and a small town nearby. So we played this guerrilla or war games where we were the bad guys and the good guys would come to the woods, we'll intercept them and put them, you know, prisoners in cages. So with my accent, my looks, I guess, I sounded more real as an enemy to them. So we did this for almost 6 months in AP Hill, Virginia.
Okay. I thought that was interesting because I knew it had to be more than just your accent that made you the favorite interrogator. So, okay, so you get to Benoit and you write about the first real shock of the body bags that you saw, I guess, at the airport.
Oh yeah, just getting off the plane. So those bodies laying, just being ready to be picked up and sent back to the States. And I asked somebody, is that what I think it is? Yes, they are. We do this every day. So, yeah, it was very, like, running back to real life. This is what you're going to go through. And from then on, we just went to Benoit, stayed there for a couple of days, and then I was flown to Dao Tien, which was my base for the next year, 12 months. Dao Tien was about 30 miles northwest, I think, of Benoit. No, well, actually Benoit, Dao Tien. Benoit now is what they call Ho Chi Minh City, or that Saigon.
Okay.
Saigon and Benoit are not too far away. So Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, and Benoit are like the main cities at the time.
Mm-hmm. So that's where you were doing mainly demolition work.
Oh, demolition work was done in the Dao Tien province, or Tai Ninh, I think is the whole area called, which is very close to the Cambodian border. We were based in Dao Tien. Dao Tien was built by the French.
Okay.
It had a beautiful swimming pool that I had a chance to use it once, I remember. It was like the clubhouse for the officers at the time. Mm-hmm. Then when the United States came over, they took over the base. Mm-hmm. And of course, they expanded the whole area. And we live in bunkers, basically in bunkers at first, or they're like tents, all, surrounded by sandbags, so we could sleep a little safe.
Describe that, because I thought that was really interesting, how you said how you protected yourselves. Right.
Well, at first we had the tent, like I was saying, mm-hmm. and we had a wall about 5 feet tall, mm-hmm. with double or triple sandbag up to 5 feet tall all the way around. So your mortar will land somewhere, at least those sandbags will stop the shrapnel. Now, if it fell on top of the canvas, that's it. We had it. For it later on, about halfway through the year, they built that new place, a new barracks, again with sandbags around. But on the top, they have hardwood and sandbags on top as well for more protection.
Okay.
And of course, we had in the same area of Dautien deep bunkers for, because every time we hear motors or the whistle of a rocket, incoming rocket, will fall into these deep bunkers and stay under cover until the attack was over.
Do you remember the first time that you were attacked?
It must have been about the second or third week that we had mortars attack. Mortar attack was a common thing at night. And you hear the pop. And you know that was coming. You hear the pop, you were awake, you ran to the bunker.
Really?
And it will take just a few seconds before after the pop for the mortar to land and explode.
Did you really have time to run to the bunkers?
Yeah, bunker was right next to each tent. So normally we did. Now the worst was the rockets. They will whistle and they were fast and they were much bigger. It's like bombs, but
and no warning.
Self-propelled.
Did you have any kind of warning when you just the sound?
The sound of the enemy. There were no sirens like you see in the movies, like I used to see in the movies. Sirens were. Thank God that the enemy didn't have air support. No planes or helicopters. That's to our advantage. We had all of that. But if they had air support, that would have been a different story.
Yeah, you talk a lot about the air support and how valuable that was.
Oh, I think I'm alive because of the air support.
Really?
Well, they sent those planes every time we had combat, and man, they took care of most of it.